The woman I comforted through a divorce, slept with my husband, copied my baby's name, and even posted it first like it was hers. But on her daughter's christening day, I baptized her in shame, with screenshots, timestamps, and betrayal on display in front of a full church. Hi, my name is Callie Monroe. And before you scroll past, listen closely. Because the woman who smiled beside me in every picture was secretly plotting to steal my life. I let her into my home. I let her sleep just feet away from my baby's crib. And when she cried, "I have no one," I held her. But that wasn't grief in her tears, it was strategy. It all started 6 months after her divorce. My best friend, Paige, called me sobbing. Said her ex took the house, the car, and even the dog. She was 7 months pregnant, alone, and desperate. I didn't think twice. "Come stay with us," I said. "For as long as you need." And she did. She came with 2 suitcases, a car seat still in plastic, and an air of tragedy that made everyone feel sorry for her. Including my husband. I should have noticed the signs, how she always laughed a little too hard at his jokes. How she started wearing makeup at home when I looked like a sleep-deprived zombie mom. How she offered to help him with his work emails because she had extra time. But I trusted her. She was the godmother of my child. She was Paige, my soul sister since college. I even let her choose my baby's name. I remember that night, I was 9 months pregnant, feet swollen, watching her flip through baby name books while we drank mocktails. She smiled when she said it. "What about Eliana?" "It means God has answered." I cried. It was perfect. We agreed on it together. And when Eliana was born 2 weeks later, Paige was right there in the delivery room holding my hand. My husband even hugged her and said, "Your family." Fast forward 3 months. Paige gives birth to her daughter, too. I was exhausted but excited. I helped her pack for the hospital. I even picked out her baby's coming home outfit. But when she sent me the announcement photo, something inside me froze. "Welcome baby Eliana Grace," the caption read. I blinked. Then stared. That's my baby's name. The first name. The middle name. Even the same font. I scrolled down and my heart started pounding. The hashtags, hashtag first to name her, hashtag Eliana forever. The comments, "OMG, what a gorgeous, original name." My stomach dropped when I saw her reply to one, "Thought of it months ago, just felt right." I didn't confront her. Not yet. I watched. Waited. And then I made the sickening discovery: she had been sleeping with my husband. It was all in a folder I wasn't supposed to see. A shared iCloud album accidentally synced to our living room TV. Late-night selfies. A hotel receipt. And texts that made me want to throw up. "She's so tired all the time, she won't notice if I'm gone. Eliana. I want us to be a real family. My Eliana. My name. My husband. My whole life. Stolen while I was folding their laundry. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not in front of them. Because Paige had invited me to her baby's christening, and I said yes. I bought a beautiful white dress. Not for me. For the war I was about to wage. I walked into that church with a USB drive in my pocket, synced to a photo slideshow she'd asked me to put together for the reception. And when the priest said, "Let's celebrate this sacred naming day," I plugged in the truth. The screen flickered once, then lit up with screenshots. Her texts to my husband. His to her. The stolen name suggestions from our couch nights. Even timestamps showing I'd used Eliana Grace 3 months before her. There was a photo of my baby's birth certificate. And then a selfie Paige sent my husband from her hospital bed, captioned "Finally ours." The room fell silent. Gasps. Then whispers. Then silence again. Paige's mother fainted. The priest stopped the blessing. And my husband? He bolted before the slideshow ended. Paige stood there, holding her child, shaking, mascara dripping down her cheeks. She whispered, "Callie, please," but I turned my back. I walked out of that church into the light, while she stood in front of God and everybody, exposed. Now, you tell me, would you forgive that? If you've ever had someone steal the life you helped them rebuild, drop a comment below. And if you're still watching, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, where are you tuning in from? I'd love to know who's hearing my story. Because trust me, this isn't just betrayal. This is theft of the soul. And I'm taking mine back. I should have known the moment she offered to do the night feeds. That wasn't kindness, it was calculation. Paige would walk into my bedroom at 3 a.m., whisper, "Go back to sleep, babe, I've got this," like she was doing me a favor. But she wasn't looking at me when she said it, she was looking at him. My husband, Jeremy, would smile, rub her shoulder, and say, "You're a real angel, Paige." And just like that, I became the invisible one in my own home. At first, I blamed exhaustion. The sleepless nights, the colic, the postpartum fog. But no amount of exhaustion explains why my best friend wore my robe more than I did. Or why I'd find her coffee mug next to his laptop every morning, hers with lipstick, his with a smiley face drawn in Sharpie. Little clues. Little cuts. Death by 1,000 paper slashes. And yet, I still believed we were just too close. That I was overthinking. That she was just being extra helpful. Until one night, I caught her humming the lullaby I made up for Eliana. But she wasn't singing it to my baby. She was singing it to hers. Same tune. Same whisper. Same made-up words I'd crafted half asleep in a rocking chair. It felt like hearing your own diary read aloud, in someone else's voice. I smiled politely. Walked to the kitchen. And screamed into a dish towel. But what broke me, what finally made me see, was the nursery. One day, I brought over some hand-me-downs for her baby. When I stepped into her freshly painted room, my breath left my body. It was my nursery. Same wallpaper. Same mobile. Even the same lamp, with Eliana's name etched into the base. Except now, her baby's name was there. Etched over mine. Paige had taken a sharp knife, scratched out the C, and rewrote the P. Eliana. Her daughter was named Eliana now. It was no longer a coincidence. It was an obsession. I didn't confront her that day. I took pictures instead. Quietly. Of everything. The lamp. The crib. The dresser with Eliana's closet labeled in gold script stickers, the exact ones I'd bought from Etsy. I emailed them to myself with timestamps. Labeled the folder "Truth Comes Home." I wasn't just documenting theft. I was documenting a slow erasure of me. Because Paige didn't want to hurt me. She wanted to be me. And Jeremy? He wasn't resisting. He was falling. I tested him one night. Asked him to pick up formula and diapers, specific brand, specific size. Instead, he came home with the brand Paige used. And when I raised an eyebrow, he said, "What's the difference?" Paige says this one's better. That was it. Paige says. Paige knows. Paige chooses. The final straw came on a Sunday morning. I overheard them talking in the hallway. She said, "Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if we'd met first." He laughed. Then silence. Then a door closing softly. That night, I started planning. Because Paige thought she was clever, stealing in shadows, one piece at a time. But she forgot something important. I don't let thieves leave with the treasure. I wait until they're flaunting it in the light. Then I snatch it back, and leave them naked in front of everyone. I didn't go looking through Jeremy's phone that night. It just happened. He left it on the kitchen counter while he showered, and something inside me, the part that still wanted to believe in us, whispered, "Maybe you're wrong." I told myself I'd look for just a minute, just to ease the buzzing in my chest. But what I found made me feel like I'd swallowed a live wire. There was a folder in his photos labeled work docs. But when I opened it, the first image was of Paige, in my guest bathroom mirror, wearing my robe. Her belly round with pregnancy. A text bubble over the top, "Thinking of you." The next was a screenshot of a DoorDash receipt. Late night cookies. Delivered to a hotel 15 minutes away. A week before her due date. I tapped back. Found the messages. And then I read everything. She had been texting him while I was in labor. She's always so dramatic. Imagine if this was our baby. I can't wait until it's just us. I stood there, paralyzed, my hands trembling above that glowing screen. And then, one message hit me so hard I had to sit down. She'd written, "I'm naming her Eliana too. I want her to have the same beautiful life we dreamed about." And he replied, "Post it first. Let people associate it with you. You deserve it more." That was it. That was the moment I stopped crying and started building. I airdropped every file to my laptop. The photos. The texts. The calendar invite he sent her labeled "Baby's first birthday, yours, not hers" winking face. I forwarded everything to a hidden email I created under a fake name, Eliana's real mom at ProtonMail. Calm, I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to document, strategize, and end them both slowly. I began printing the texts, binding them into a small, neat folder labeled "Baby Shower Memories." I filled it with screenshots, highlighted conversations, and side-by-side photos of our nurseries. I included receipts with matching timestamps, proof that I bought the gold stickers first. That I posted my daughter's name a full 3 months earlier. You'd think I'd be afraid, right? Nervous? Nope. I was electric. I was the storm they didn't see coming. I scheduled a meeting with the priest from Paige's church, pretending to be her cousin. Told him we wanted to surprise the new mom with a slideshow for the christening. He smiled and said, "How sweet." I handed him a labeled USB drive with the words "For God's eyes only." But the real surprise? I also printed copies of every file and mailed them, anonymously, to her parents, her boss, and her ex-husband. Especially the one that said, "He was never man enough. Yours or mine." I knew she'd trace it back to me eventually. But by then, I'd be long gone from the ashes and standing in the light. Paige had spent months building a version of my life she thought looked better on her. But she forgot something. I lived it. I bled for it. And I remember everything. The morning of the christening, I curled my hair for the first time in weeks. Not for vanity. Not even for photos. But because I knew how Paige always said, "You look most like yourself with curls." And today? I wanted her to see exactly who she'd been trying to become. I picked a soft pink dress, one she complimented last month, saying it brought out my eyes. I wore the gold locket Jeremy gave me on our 2nd anniversary. She'd once tried it on in secret and left a smudge of lipstick on the glass. I never told her I noticed. Until now. The church was packed. Friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, people who thought they were gathering for a celebration. Paige greeted them all like a queen, glowing in white, her baby in her arms, Jeremy just 2 rows back like the shadow he'd become. He avoided my eyes. Of course he did. Cowards blink before battles. Paige, however, didn't. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, too brightly. A twitch in her jaw betrayed the panic. I smiled. She hugged me. She said, "I'm so glad you came." I whispered, "Wouldn't miss it for the world." And then I handed her the gift bag, with the bound folder nestled deep between a onesie and a rattle. She didn't check it. Not yet. But the priest would soon. Before the ceremony began, Paige asked if I'd help set up the baby slideshow in the back hall. Of course I agreed. After all, I had volunteered to make it. She had no clue what I had loaded onto that USB, cleverly named Eliana's Journey. It started with innocent baby pictures, then merged into layered comparisons, overlapping texts, time-stamped receipts, and slowly descending into screenshots that felt like arrows to the gut. All timed. All automated. All unskippable. The truth would unravel itself. In order. In public. And while the priest welcomed everyone, I took a seat in the back row, center aisle. Prime viewing position. My daughter, my real Eliana, sat beside me, babbling sweet nonsense as if she could sense justice in the air. As the priest began the ceremony, praising Paige for her resilience, her motherhood, her strength, I clenched my fists so tight my nails left crescent moons in my palm. I didn't stop it. Not yet. Because I wanted her to climb high enough to fall properly. The moment arrived. Let us now share a special video of Eliana's beautiful journey, the priest announced, smiling at Paige like she was the Virgin Mary herself. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered. And then, boom. A split screen. 2 nurseries. Labeled, mine. And hers. 2 cribs. 2 dresses. 2 identical lullabies, recorded from Instagram stories, side by side. A text, post it first. You deserve it more. A timestamp, my post, April 3rd, hers, July 29th. Jeremy's face appeared, kissing her shoulder in a grainy hotel selfie. Then another text, let's name her Eliana too. Our fresh start. Gasps erupted. The priest froze. Paige clutched her baby. A woman in the front pew turned to her and whispered, "You stole her baby's name?" Jeremy stood. Walked halfway down the aisle. And turned right back around. Coward. Paige's face drained of color. "Stop it. Turn it off," she shouted. But no one moved. Not the priest. Not the tech guy. Not the crowd. I rose slowly, buttoned my coat, picked up my daughter, and walked down the aisle like it was my wedding day, except this time, I wasn't the bride. I was the reckoning. As I passed Paige, I leaned in just enough to whisper, "You should have picked a different name. And a different life. This one's taken." I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could already hear the murmurs behind me. And the tears. Not mine. By the time I reached the church doors, people were already murmuring like bees in a burning hive. I didn't rush. I walked slowly. Deliberately. Let them watch me exit. Let them whisper her name in mine. Because from that moment on, the illusion was broken, and everyone could finally see who had been stealing behind the curtains. Paige tried to recover. She stuttered something about technical issues, then blamed a hacker. But her voice trembled. Her face had lost its polished charm. And the priest? He didn't buy it for a second. I heard it later, from someone who sat 2 rows behind her parents, that her own mother turned and asked, "Is it true?" Paige didn't answer. She gathered her baby, grabbed her diaper bag, and bolted down the aisle in heels that suddenly made her wobble like a fawn on ice. Her dress caught on a pew. She nearly tripped. And just as she reached the door, someone from the back shouted, "Who names their baby after their best friend's daughter and sleeps with her husband?" It wasn't me. But I wish it had been. I didn't go home right away. I took Eliana to the park. Let her play in the sun while I sat on a bench, watching the light spill through the trees like peace I hadn't felt in months. I didn't even need to open my phone, I knew the fallout was already spiraling. Paige had spent so long crafting a public image. But now? Her christening was trending. People were sharing the video. Someone had recorded it from the pews. You could hear the gasp when Jeremy's hotel photo appeared. You could hear Paige whispering no, 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 as the evidence flashed by. By that evening, 3 people had unfollowed her business account. 2 clients canceled bookings. And someone posted a Reddit thread, "Is it just me, or was that christening insane?" Within hours, the post had hundreds of comments, screenshots, theories, even a side-by-side of our nursery walls. One user called it the single white female of suburbia. Another wrote, "Her poor friend. I hope the real Eliana grows up never hearing that woman's name." Jeremy? He didn't come home. I wasn't surprised. Cowards love silence after chaos. I packed his things into garbage bags and left them on the porch. He texted once, "We need to talk." I replied, "Your audience has left the building. And so have I." I stayed with a friend that night, the kind of friend who doesn't copy your life, your child, or your name. She poured wine. Listened. Then said something I'll never forget: she wanted to be you. And now she's only the cautionary tale. The next day, Paige's face was no longer glowing in her usual morning Instagram stories. She posted a black square with the caption, "Taking time to heal. Please respect our privacy." Heal from what, Paige? From getting caught? From stealing a name and a husband and a whole damn identity? But here's the truth she never counted on: I let her in, and she tried to become me. But I let her burn instead. And now? Now, she's the girl with the stolen baby name. And a lifetime of side eyes. It didn't take long. Just 3 days after the christening disaster, Jeremy showed up at my door, sweaty, pale, reeking of desperation and cheap hotel soap. I didn't open it. I watched from the window as he stood there holding a grocery store bouquet like it could erase betrayal. Like daisies could rewrite infidelity. He knocked once, twice, then said my name like a man begging for oxygen. I let him stew. Only when Eliana started crying did I go out, not for him, but to take her for a walk. I opened the door slowly, stepped past him without a word, and started buckling my daughter into the stroller. "Callie," he whispered. "Please. I made a mistake." She meant nothing. I laughed. "Nothing? That's funny. You gave nothing my daughter's name, my robe, my lullaby, my life." He looked gutted. But I wasn't done. Not even close. "Do you want to know the real reason I didn't scream the night I found out?" I asked, still tightening the stroller strap. "Because I'd already started digging. And what I found about her made your betrayal look like a footnote." His brows furrowed. Confusion flickered across his stupidly handsome face. "Good. Because what Jeremy didn't know was that while he was tangled up in Paige's lies, I had gone deeper. I'd started combing through her past, not just the Instagram perfect, curated Paige, but the real one. The one who never mentioned her first marriage. I had contacted her ex-husband, Noah. Remember the guy she claimed had cheated and abandoned her? Turns out, Paige had stolen his best friend's identity once. Opened a credit card in the guy's name, booked flights, spa visits, even a whole baby shower, charged to someone else's life. She was sued for fraud, but Noah settled it quietly. Why? Because Paige was pregnant at the time, with a baby she later miscarried and then blamed Noah for. I had the documents. Court summaries. Even screenshots of old Facebook messages from Noah that said, "She's good at becoming who you want. Until you wake up and your life is gone." I printed it all. Sealed it in an envelope. And taped it to the inside of Jeremy's bag before I threw it down the porch steps. "Take your things," I said, pushing past him. "And when you get to your new motel room, read what you almost brought into our daughter's life." His mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't wait for them. I walked down the sidewalk with Eliana cooing in her stroller and never looked back. Not when he called out. Not when he cried. And definitely not when he finally read what Paige really was. By sunset, he texted again, "I didn't know she did all that." I replied with 3 words. "You never asked." And that was the end of Jeremy. Not in the public eye, no. But in mine. As for Paige, her online followers started asking questions. One mom influencer even made a reaction video titled, "Did she really steal her best friend's baby name?" The comments weren't kind. Paige had spent so long pretending to be the perfect mother, the perfect friend. But now, every photo, every filtered post, looked suspicious. Cropped. Contrived. She couldn't fake her way out of this one. Because the receipts? They had dates. And I had more. Much more. Paige had only just begun to feel what it's like when someone quietly undoes your entire mask, stitch by stitch. By the end of that week, Paige's Instagram page, once a polished grid of swaddled babies, inspirational quotes, and smoothie bowls, was an echo chamber of chaos. The christening video had leaked to a gossip forum called Mommy Mayhem, and the mods pinned it to the top of the page with a headline that read, "She stole her best friend's baby name, and her husband too?" It racked up over 200K views in 48 hours. The comments were brutal. Unfollowed. I thought she was different. What kind of person names her child after someone else's just to compete? Paige tried damage control. She posted a tearful video, no makeup, puffy eyes, a baby on her hip. She called it my truth. Claimed she had been emotionally vulnerable when the christening disaster happened. That I had hacked her life out of jealousy. That she never intended to hurt anyone. She even said, "I've always loved the name Eliana. It was on my list for years." But one commenter replied with a screenshot, Paige's old Pinterest baby name board, captured just months ago. Not a single Eliana in sight. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The internet had become my army. Every lie she told became a thread. And every thread unraveled a little more of her perfect persona. But the biggest twist came when a woman named Monica DM'd me. A stranger. She said, "I think we've both been played by Paige. Can we talk?" At first, I thought it was a troll. But Monica sent proof. A photo of her with Paige from 5 years ago, both pregnant, both smiling. Paige had lived with her for 6 months. Sound familiar? Same routine. Heartbroken. Nowhere to go. I just need time to get back on my feet. Monica had helped her find a doctor, bought her prenatal vitamins, even let her name Monica's baby boy. You already know where this is going, don't you? Paige named him Asher. A name Monica had circled in a notebook after losing her first son to a stillbirth. She trusted Paige with that memory. Paige turned it into her own tribute. But then, Paige posted a birth announcement for her daughter years later, with the same name. Ashera. She had done it before. To someone else. And now, she'd done it to me. I asked Monica if she'd be willing to go public. She said she already had. Quietly. She'd written a blog post titled "The Friend Who Became Me," but deleted it out of fear years ago. Now, she republished it. Added new details. Tagged me. Tagged the forum. Within hours, it went viral again, this time with 2 victims telling the same story. Paige posted nothing after that. Her profile turned private. Then disappeared completely. Rumors swirled she lost a brand deal. Then 2. Then 3. One company issued a statement, "We stand with women who support women, not steal from them." Jeremy, to his microscopic credit, apologized again. This time, in a letter. Said he'd never realized Paige was copying her way through life. That he saw now how she mirrored other people's joy like a mask. He asked for shared custody. I declined. I said he could apply through the courts. He hasn't yet. Paige? She tried to rebrand under a new name. Minimal Mom Paige. But the internet has a long memory. Every time she resurfaces, someone drops the christening clip. Every time she posts a parenting quote, someone comments, "Did you name this quote after your friend too?" And me? I didn't become bitter. I became bulletproof. Because once you've watched someone steal your identity and weaponize your kindness, you stop apologizing for protecting your peace. And you start guarding your name like gold. Just when I thought it was over, that she'd finally slinked away into the digital shadows she came from, Paige reappeared. But this time, she wasn't Paige. She was Anna Callan. New name. New profile picture. Same tactics. Same handwriting in the captions. She dyed her hair dark brown. Wrote in lowercase like a wannabe poet. Claimed to be a single mom of one miracle baby girl named, wait for it, Elle Grace. It would have been hilarious if it weren't so deeply unhinged. But she didn't stop there. No Mo Paige, if excuse me, Anna had joined an online mom support group under her new alias. The same group where I had quietly been sharing parts of my recovery journey. And you know what she did? She started repeating my words. Word for word. Paragraphs lifted from my posts, copied, pasted, passed off as her own. One woman even commented, "This sounds exactly like something Callie Monroe wrote last month." Paige ignored it. But I didn't. I messaged the group admin privately. Sent proof. Screenshots. Told her the full story. At first, she didn't believe me. Until I dropped the ultimate receipt, a screen recording of both profiles open side by side, same birthday, same baby's face with just a slightly different filter, same posting schedule. She was using a stolen identity to reinvent herself, again. The admin thanked me. And then did something brilliant. She didn't kick Paige out. She let her stay. Watched her. Tracked her. And just like I'd hoped, Paige got cocky. She started DMing vulnerable women. Offering coaching sessions for a fee. Said she could help them rise from betrayal. Can you believe that? The thief became the therapist. So I set the trap. I posed as a new mom under a fake account. Reached out to her. Booked a Zoom session. Paid her through PayPal with an account under Monica's name. And when the session started, Paige looked into the camera and smiled with that same old honey-dripping voice. "Hi, I'm Anna. Thank you for trusting me." I clicked record. And then I spoke. Not as the fake client, but as me. "Hi, Paige. Or should I say, Anna Callan? Funny. You're coaching women now. Did you tell them how many identities you've stolen? Or do we have to cover that in week 2? Her smile vanished. Her face drained like a ghost catching its own reflection. She reached to end the call, too late. I already had the footage. Already uploading it to the admin. Already blind copying it to every client she messaged. Already looping in her former sponsors with the subject line, "Thought you should see who's using your name to scam new moms." Within 24 hours, she was removed. Reported. And PayPal permanently froze her account. Her new alias? Burned. Her coaching dream? Collapsed before it ever stood. Paige didn't just want to copy people anymore, she wanted to monetize her manipulation. But here's what she forgot: you can only wear someone else's skin for so long before it begins to rot. And I was the maggot she never expected. I should have known she wouldn't go quietly. Paige was like a snake, you cut off the head, and the body still twitches. 2 weeks after her Anna Callan stunt crashed and burned, my phone buzzed with a very familiar number. I didn't answer, but I watched it flash. Jeremy. Again. And again. 5 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then a voicemail, "Callie, please. I don't know what she told you, but I didn't agree to this. She said it was just an interview." Interview? At first, I thought he meant a podcast or some minor Instagram live stunt. But no. Paige had gone nuclear. She'd booked herself and Jeremy on a morning talk show, one of those low-tier daytime ones with inspirational music, floral mugs, and a history of platforming reformed women. And the theme? Forgiveness after betrayal, a modern motherhood redemption story. She was calling it the naming war. Pretending it was all a tragic misunderstanding. Framing herself as the victim of online bullying and false narratives. Jeremy? She'd convinced him to sit beside her. Smile. Nod. Tell the world they'd simply fallen in love unexpectedly and that names are just names, love is what matters. I nearly laughed. But then I got angry. Because I knew the angle she was playing. She wasn't just trying to clear her name. She was trying to rewrite the entire story in front of a national audience. Make me look bitter. Jealous. Spiteful. But here's what Paige didn't know. I had already been contacted by the same producers. They'd reached out for a statement from the other side. I hadn't responded. Until now. So I called back. Not to plead. Not to warn. To agree. I told them I'd show up. In person. Not for a screaming match. Not for theatrics. But to tell my side, with dates, screenshots, court filings, and one very special piece of footage. The morning of the taping, I walked in calmly. Dressed in navy blue, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. Paige, in contrast, wore a pastel maternity-style dress, her signature fake purity look, and Jeremy looked like he hadn't slept in a week. When they introduced her, she launched into tears almost instantly. I made mistakes, she said, but I was a broken woman. I never meant to hurt anyone. And I chose the name Eliana because it felt like healing. The host nodded sympathetically. Jeremy kept shifting in his seat. Paige turned to him, reached for his hand, and he visibly recoiled. The audience caught it. So did the camera. And then it was my turn. I spoke clearly. Not as a victim. Not even as a woman scorned. But as a mother. I laid out the timeline. The proof. The receipts. I showed the side-by-side slideshow, edited and prepared for national TV. The audience gasped. People started murmuring. One woman even said, "Wait, she named her baby after yours?" Paige started to tremble. The host turned to her, "Is this true? You knew the name was already chosen?" She tried to backpedal, but her words fell apart. Jeremy leaned forward into the mic and said, "She showed me the name Callie picked. And I still let Paige use it. I was weak. I'm sorry. But the biggest blow? I pulled out a sealed manila folder. Inside was the restraining order Paige's previous roommate Monica had filed years ago, complete with a police report for identity theft. I didn't have to say another word. The host closed the segment with a quiet, stunned thank you. Paige wasn't given the final word. She wasn't even offered a ride back to her hotel. And by nightfall, the episode was trending under the hashtag naming war exposed, #stolen motherhood. Her sponsors issued statements. Jeremy disappeared again. And Paige? She went dark. Again. But this time, she wasn't hiding in someone else's identity. She was alone. Because you can manipulate sympathy. You can script fake tears. But you can't edit the truth when I own the original copy. Just when I thought Paige had finally hit rock bottom, she pulled her last card, a lawsuit. A cease and desist letter arrived at my doorstep, accusing me of defamation, invasion of privacy, and malicious intent to destroy her reputation. The letter was thick with legal jargon and veiled threats, demanding I remove every post, every video, and pay damages, or face court. Her lawyers said she was protecting her right to privacy and freedom to rebuild her life. But I knew better. Paige was trying to shut me up. Trying to scare me into silence. But I wasn't about to let her rewrite history with empty threats. I hired a lawyer, a fierce woman named Sandra who smelled a winner the moment I told her my story. Sandra told me, "We're not just fighting for your truth, Callie. We're fighting for your daughter's name. And your life." We built our case meticulously. Every text. Every photo. Every timestamp. We subpoenaed Paige's previous settlements, the fraud cases Monica had mentioned, and even the contracts with the companies that dropped her after the scandals. We had it all, solid, undeniable, and airtight. Then came the day of the court hearing. I sat in the courtroom, nerves steady but fire burning inside me. Paige walked in, eyes downcast, lips pressed tight like she knew this was the endgame. Her lawyers tried to attack me, called me vindictive, obsessed, and worse. But Sandra crushed every claim with cold facts. The judge listened intently as we played the video of her fake coaching session and the screenshots of her stolen baby names. When it was Paige's turn, she broke down. Told the court about her difficult past, her regrets, and begged for mercy. But mercy had nothing to do with it. This was justice. And in the end, the judge ruled in my favor. The court ordered Paige to pay damages, remove all defamatory content, and permanently cease using the names Eliana Grace or El Grace for any purpose. The restraining order Monica filed years ago was reinstated. As I left the courthouse, the weight I'd carried for months lifted like a storm breaking. I was no longer a victim. I was a warrior who fought for her daughter's name, her dignity, and her peace. Paige's attempt to silence me had only amplified my voice, and that voice was louder than ever. After the court victory, I thought the worst was behind me. Paige was legally blocked from using our daughter's name or tarnishing mine, and Jeremy had retreated for good. But the silence that followed was deafening. The house felt emptier than ever, and the nights stretched long without the noise of arguments or whispered lies. Instead of relief, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and anticipation, like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I spent those quiet weeks rebuilding the parts of my life Paige had tried to steal. I took Eliana to the park more often, made new friends, and reconnected with old ones who had supported me through the storm. I started a small blog to share my story, not for revenge, but to empower other women who had been betrayed. Yet every night, I'd check the news and social media, half expecting Paige to resurface in some new disguise or scheme. And then, one evening, I received a cryptic message from an unknown number: "The war isn't over. You've won battles, but the real fight begins now." It chilled me to the bone. Someone was watching. Someone was waiting. And they weren't done. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I had learned how to fight in the shadows, how to gather allies, and how to protect what was mine. I was ready for whatever came next. Because this story wasn't just about a stolen name anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, no matter the cost. The message haunted me. Who could it be? A friend? An enemy? Someone else caught in Paige's web? I didn't know, but I knew one thing: I wasn't alone anymore. Every step I took, every new post I made on my blog, I felt eyes on me, not just from strangers, but from someone who wanted to keep the story alive on their terms. One evening, returning home from a late visit to the library with Eliana, I noticed a car parked across the street, the same one I'd seen a few nights before, always there but always empty when I looked. My heart pounded. I told myself it was just paranoia, but instinct screamed otherwise. I started taking pictures discreetly, documenting the vehicle's comings and goings. At the same time, I increased the security around our home, new locks, cameras, and an alarm system. Sandra, my lawyer, recommended I keep detailed records of anything suspicious. Then came the first direct warning: a package left on my doorstep. No return address. Inside, a single Polaroid photo, of me and Eliana playing in the park just days before. No note. Just the picture. Fear and anger bubbled inside me. Paige wasn't just a ghost from the past, she had allies, or maybe a new obsession with controlling me. But this time, I refused to be the hunted. I was the hunter. I reached out to Monica, who had become my closest confidant in this mess. Together, we started piecing together a network, friends, family, even some of Paige's former acquaintances willing to share dirt or keep watch. I wasn't just fighting to protect a name anymore. I was fighting to protect my life and the future of my daughter. The days after the photo on my doorstep felt like walking through fog, thick, cold, and impossible to see through. I kept replaying that single image in my mind, me and Eliana laughing in the park, completely unaware someone was watching. The thought made my skin crawl. Who would go this far? Was it really Paige? Or someone else pulling her strings? The uncertainty gnawed at me. I spent hours reviewing every message, every call, and every strange coincidence that had happened since the christening incident. My instincts kept pointing back to Paige, but the shadow following me felt bigger, more dangerous, like a spider weaving a far-reaching web. Then, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. Monica called me one afternoon, her voice low but urgent. "Callie, I did some digging on that car you spotted." She paused, then continued, "It's registered to a woman named Rachel Saunders. Former friend of Paige's from college. Known for her stalking and harassment charges." Rachel Saunders. The name hit me like a punch. Monica explained Rachel had a history of obsessive behavior, sometimes acting as Paige's protector, sometimes her enforcer. I remembered fleeting mentions of Rachel in old messages Monica had saved, but I'd never connected the dots. I asked Monica to find out everything she could about Rachel, social media profiles, recent activity, any connection to Paige's latest moves. Meanwhile, I beefed up home security even more, installing motion-activated lights and a smart doorbell camera. I wasn't taking chances. The following days brought more unsettling signs. Packages appeared on the porch, small, cryptic, and threatening. One contained a music box playing a lullaby I had sung to Eliana as a newborn. Another had a photo of my family framed with the words, "You can run, but you can't hide." Despite the fear, I refused to let them win. I began documenting everything meticulously, every suspicious car, every anonymous message, every time someone lingered too long outside my home. Sandra advised me to file a police report, but officers were reluctant without concrete evidence of direct threats. The system felt slow, frustrating, like I was fighting an invisible enemy in a game with no rules. Then, one night, everything changed. I received an anonymous email. The subject line read simply, "Meet me if you want answers." The message body contained a single address and time. No name. No explanation. Just the barest thread of hope that someone on the inside wanted to help. I debated for hours. Was it a trap? A chance for clarity? Could I risk meeting a stranger when my life already felt shattered? But I knew I couldn't stay hidden forever. For Eliana's sake, for my own peace, I had to know who was behind the shadow stalking me. With Monica by my side, I decided to go. We arrived early, scanning the dimly lit street, hearts pounding with every passing second. Minutes felt like hours. Then, a figure approached, a woman with cautious eyes and a familiar voice. "Callie," she whispered. "It's Rachel. I'm the shadow you're chasing." The name echoed in my mind like a gunshot. The war was no longer just between Paige and me. It had expanded, twisted, and darkened. But now, the pieces were falling into place. And the final battle was about to begin. Meeting Rachel was like staring at the dark heart of the storm that had been swirling around my life for months. Her eyes held a cold intensity, but beneath it, I sensed something more of pain, jealousy, maybe even regret. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I'm the one who's been sending those photos, the packages," she said quietly, voice trembling slightly. Not Paige. Paige's world is collapsing, but I've been the one making sure you stay scared. I swallowed hard. Why? What do you want from me? Rachel sighed and looked down. Paige and we were inseparable once. But she left me behind when she started stealing lives to build her own. I'm angry. I'm broken. And I wanted to protect her by tearing down anyone who threatened her. I felt a flicker of sympathy, but I couldn't forget what she'd done, the invasion of my privacy, the threats, the harassment. You thought scaring me would stop me from fighting Paige? Maybe, she admitted. But now? I realize you're stronger than both of us imagined. The conversation shifted from hostility to something almost collaborative. Rachel revealed details about Paige's past plans to reinvent herself again, new aliases, fake pregnancies, attempts to cozy up to influential people. She said Paige was spiraling, desperate and dangerous. I asked Rachel if she was willing to help me stop Paige for good. After a long pause, she nodded. I owe you that much. From that moment, Rachel became my unexpected ally. We shared everything: photos, messages, contacts. Monica helped coordinate surveillance while Sandra prepared legal documents to block Paige's future moves. But even with Rachel on my side, the threat was far from over. Paige's network was bigger than I'd realized. And she had powerful people willing to do almost anything to keep her secrets buried. Still, I wasn't afraid anymore. Not with a team and a plan. Together, we would end this. After Rachel joined forces with me, I finally felt the pieces shifting in my favor. It wasn't just about exposing Paige anymore, it was about making sure she could never hurt me or anyone else again. We spent days gathering intel, cross-checking social media profiles, bank accounts, and messages. Paige was a chameleon, but every disguise left a faint trail, and Rachel's knowledge of her habits helped us follow it. The plan was simple but risky: lure Paige out with a fake offer to help her rebuild her life in exchange for a full confession, and record everything. If she agreed, we'd have proof not just of her thefts but of her manipulations and lies. If she refused, it would show her guilt without a doubt. We created a new alias: Amara, a woman starting fresh after a painful divorce, looking for guidance on naming her child and navigating betrayal. Rachel helped me craft Mara's social media presence: photos, posts, messages. We even scripted conversations and prepared the perfect background story to reel Paige in. The bait was irresistible. Paige's ego and desperation made her bite fast. Within hours of Mara reaching out, Paige was messaging eagerly, offering to share her wisdom and promising to be honest this time. Rachel and I set up a secure Zoom call. I was ready with screen recording, backup cameras, and our legal team on standby. The day arrived, and I sat waiting, heart pounding but mind clear. Paige appeared on screen looking fragile yet defiant, her voice sweet but laced with tension. I'm glad you reached out, Mara. I've made mistakes, but I want to make things right. I leaned in, adopting a softer tone. I'm tired of the lies, Paige. If you want to move on, I need the truth. Every detail. Her facade cracked slowly. She confessed to copying baby names, manipulating Jeremy, and even gaslighting me to turn friends against me. She revealed plans for fake charities and schemes to regain sympathy online. Every word was a dagger, and I recorded it all. Suddenly, Paige's eyes flicked to the side, and she froze. Rachel's voice whispered through my earpiece, "Someone's at her door." The tension skyrocketed. Paige stammered, I have to go. She tried to end the call, but I kept the recording live, narrating, "You don't get to walk away." Seconds later, a loud knock echoed. Paige's face paled. The camera caught a shadow moving behind her. Then a police officer entered, holding a warrant for fraud and harassment based on our evidence. Paige screamed, but it was too late. We had done it. The evidence we collected became the foundation for an airtight case. With Rachel's testimony and my recordings, the police arrested Paige the next day. News outlets covered the story, the mom who stole a life finally exposed and brought to justice. As Paige was led away in handcuffs, I stood outside the courthouse holding Eliana, tears streaming down my face, not from pain, but relief. This chapter was finally over. But more than that, I'd taken back my power, my name, and my peace. The courthouse steps felt like the edge of a cliff, steep, uncertain, but finally a place where I could breathe. Watching Paige escorted away in handcuffs was surreal. For years, I had felt like a prisoner in my own home, trapped by lies, betrayal, and stolen trust. Now, with her gone, I was free. But freedom wasn't easy. It was the beginning of a long, winding road toward healing. The first days after the arrest were a whirlwind. Media calls, family questions, and a flood of messages from strangers thanking me for sharing my story. I was overwhelmed but deeply moved. So many women wrote to say they'd been through similar betrayals, some worse, some different, but all carried the same scars. I realized my pain had created a bridge, connecting hearts in unexpected ways. But the hardest part was rebuilding my personal life. Jeremy was gone for good, but the wounds he left ran deep. Trust didn't come easily anymore, especially with people closest to me. I was cautious, guarded, sometimes lonely. I relied heavily on Monica and Rachel, who had become my pillars of strength and understanding. Together, we created a safe space where I could talk openly, cry freely, and plan for the future. I also focused on Eliana. She was my light, my reason. Watching her grow and laugh reminded me that life could be joyful again. I began attending Mommy and Me groups and community classes, slowly reclaiming my social life. I found solace in small moments, her first steps, bedtime stories, and quiet mornings together. Each was a stitch sewing my heart back together. Therapy became a cornerstone of my recovery. At first, I resisted, worried it meant admitting weakness. But the sessions gave me tools to process betrayal, manage anxiety, and rebuild my identity separate from the trauma. I learned that healing isn't linear. Some days felt like progress, others like setbacks. But every step mattered. I also started writing more seriously on my blog, sharing lessons on resilience, boundaries, and self-love. The response was overwhelming. Women from around the world connected, sharing their stories and encouragement. It gave me a sense of purpose, turning my pain into power, my story into a beacon. Of course, scars remain. I still flinch when I hear unexpected knocks, and trust doesn't come as naturally as it once did. But I no longer let fear rule me. I have boundaries now, and I protect them fiercely. As I tuck Eliana into bed one night, she looks up and smiles, her eyes shining with innocence and love. In that moment, I know I am whole again, not despite everything that happened, but because I chose to rise beyond it. The months following Paige's arrest were some of the most challenging, and ultimately the most rewarding, of my life. While the legal battle had ended, the true work of rebuilding my life was just beginning. The betrayals had fractured more than just trust, they had shaken the very foundation of my relationships, especially with family and close friends. Some people had stood by me from the start, unwavering and fierce. Monica and Rachel remained my closest allies, pillars of support who never wavered. But others were more complicated, relatives who doubted me at first, unsure who to believe. Slowly, through patience and openness, I began to mend those fences. The hardest was Jeremy's family. They had been blindsided by the scandal, caught between loyalty and truth. I invited them over one afternoon, not to accuse, but to explain my pain, my truth, and the reality of what happened. It was a difficult conversation, filled with tears and silence. But it was the beginning of healing. Some embraced me with remorse and apology, others chose distance. I accepted both. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It wasn't a one-time act, but a daily choice, a slow unshackling from bitterness. For me, it was about reclaiming peace, not excusing the hurt. I learned to forgive not just others, but myself, for the moments of doubt, for the times I stayed silent too long, for the pain I carried. With forgiveness came strength. I started to see the woman I was becoming, not defined by betrayal, but by resilience and grace. I enrolled in a creative writing class, something I'd dreamed of but never pursued. Writing became therapy, a way to process my journey and give voice to my experiences. I also began volunteering with local organizations supporting women who had suffered abuse and betrayal. Sharing my story face to face was terrifying at first, but it gave my pain purpose and connected me to a community of survivors. Most importantly, my bond with Eliana grew stronger every day. Her laughter filled the house, her trust in me healing the deepest wounds. I promised myself I would protect her innocence fiercely and nurture her with the love I fought so hard to keep. Looking back, I realized that betrayal shattered my old life, but it also forged a new, stronger one. A life where I am no longer a victim but a warrior, a mother, and a woman who knows her worth. After years of heartache, betrayals, and fighting shadows, I finally found room to breathe and to dream again. Rebuilding my life wasn't just about healing wounds, it was about embracing the unexpected joys that began to bloom from the ruins. The first surprise came from the smallest moments. Eliana's first laugh after a long day, the way she reached for my hand without hesitation, trusting me completely. I started to notice the beauty in ordinary things, the way sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, the softness of her tiny fingers wrapped around mine. One afternoon, I met Grace, a woman from the parenting group, who became more than a friend, she became family. We bonded over late-night talks about motherhood, heartbreak, and dreams deferred. Grace encouraged me to start hosting a support circle for women rebuilding after betrayal. The group grew quickly, and watching these women share, cry, and laugh together gave me a renewed sense of purpose. I also returned to my writing with renewed passion. My blog evolved into a community where women from all over the world shared their stories of resilience. Publishers reached out, and before I knew it, I was working on a memoir, a testament to survival and strength. The most unexpected joy came when I reconnected with my estranged sister, Hannah. We had drifted apart over the years, but through mutual friends, she learned of my journey. One day, she showed up at my door, hesitant but hopeful. We spent hours talking, apologies, tears, and laughter weaving the threads of a new bond. Together, we planned a small family gathering, a symbol of fresh starts and healing hearts. The day was filled with awkward silences, tentative smiles, but also a sense of hope. I realized that while the past could never be erased, the future was mine to shape. Through it all, I learned that life after betrayal is not just about surviving, it's about rediscovering joy, nurturing love, and embracing the power of new beginnings. Just as I began to believe that life was settling into a gentle rhythm, a new challenge emerged, one I hadn't seen coming. Peace, I learned, is fragile. And sometimes, the hardest battles come not from strangers or enemies, but from within. It started subtly. Little things that made my heart tighten without clear reason. A phone call missed, a message left unanswered. At first, I shrugged it off, chalking it up to busy schedules and new routines. But then Eliana began waking at night, unsettled and crying, clinging to me like she was afraid to let go. I found myself anxious in places where I used to feel safe, wondering if someone was watching, listening, waiting. The shadows of betrayal lingered, whispering doubts and fears. The scars, though healing, still ached beneath the surface. One afternoon, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon an article about emotional trauma in children of broken families. The description mirrored Eliana's behavior perfectly. My heart broke anew. I realized that despite all I had done, the ripple effects of Paige's destruction were still present in my daughter's world. Determined to protect her, I sought out a child therapist recommended by a close friend. The sessions were gentle but revealing. Eliana's fears weren't just about the present, they were echoes of the past she couldn't fully understand yet. It was heartbreaking to witness her struggle, but also a relief to have a path forward. At the same time, I found myself grappling with my own unresolved pain. Nights filled with restless sleep, days punctuated by moments of overwhelming sadness. The betrayal had changed me in ways I was only beginning to comprehend. I returned to therapy, digging deeper into the wounds that hadn't fully closed. Through these struggles, I learned that healing isn't a destination but a journey, a continuous process of facing fears, forgiving myself, and choosing hope every single day. I also leaned more heavily on my support network, Monica, Rachel, Grace, and my sister Hannah, who reminded me that I wasn't alone. Despite these internal battles, I refused to let fear dictate our lives. I became more intentional with Eliana, creating routines filled with love, laughter, and security. We planted a small garden together, a symbol of growth and new beginnings. Watching the tiny seeds sprout was a daily reminder that life, even after destruction, can flourish. As I write this chapter of my life, I understand that peace is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to keep moving forward in spite of it. The wounds may never fully disappear, but neither will my resolve to protect my daughter, nurture my soul, and embrace the beautiful, imperfect journey of healing. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow across our little home. I sat on the porch with Eliana nestled in my lap, her tiny fingers tracing patterns on my skin as she giggled softly. It was a moment I had dreamed of for so long, a moment of peace, a moment of hope. Looking back, the journey here was nothing short of a storm. Betrayal had torn through the fabric of my life, stealing trust, love, and the sense of safety I once knew. Paige had taken so much from me, my husband, my peace, and even my daughter's name. But she never took my strength. And in the end, that was what carried me through the darkest nights. This story isn't just mine, it belongs to every woman who's been silenced by betrayal, every mother fighting to protect her children, every soul searching for light after the storm. I share it with you not for sympathy, but to remind you that even when everything seems lost, you still have the power to rise. The courtroom battles, the public shaming, the threats, they were all chapters in a story that tested me, but didn't define me. With the help of incredible friends like Monica and Rachel, and the unwavering love for my daughter, I reclaimed my life piece by piece. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing the hurt. It means freeing yourself from the chains of bitterness and choosing peace. It means embracing imperfection and knowing your worth isn't tied to anyone else's actions. Eliana's laughter is my daily reminder of resilience. She is my future, my hope, and my greatest joy. Watching her grow, I am filled with a fierce determination to protect her innocence and teach her the strength of kindness, courage, and truth. This chapter closes on a woman who has been broken, but who has also been made whole again. A woman who knows that the scars she bears are not signs of weakness, but of survival and strength. To everyone listening, thank you for walking this journey with me. If my story touches your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to support women's voices everywhere. And tell me, where are you from? I want to hear your stories, your battles, and your victories. Together, we rise. Together, we heal. And together, we build a future where no one's name, no one's love, can ever be stolen again.